So a pure mystic and an approach to the divine through all-encompassing love, right? Other aspects of connection with the divine through will and love, will, and wisdom, essentially, okay? So this would be, if you look at it, the four bases of supernatural power: will to the fire element, wisdom to the air element, right? And love to the water element. So these then come together and are manifested through the earth element, and this is where you get into the consciousness, or the particular fractal of I identity that is associated with at any given time, which of course it can change. That fractal can change, and that is where you get into the tetragrammation type process. Again, the harmony and constant evolution, spherical evolution of the elements as they express in all the levels. Okay, so this is again a look at the divine attributes, and that is in the section on God and divinity. And this is, again, the introduction to this book. There's so much value in it to look through. And then once you've practiced and you've had a lot of time spent in your own study, your own explorations, and deep, tangible, real meditations, then you go through this again and again and again, and it'll mean more. As any good book is written in the manner of a scroll, something that you can return to and understand from higher and higher places of understanding and of development. The last section, I believe it's the last section here, yep, of this introduction is on asceticism. Okay, and this is split, of course, into asceticism from the standpoint of the mental, the astral, and the physical. So having a type of choicefulness towards how we think, how we feel, how we act. What are the thoughts that we choose to allow to grow in the mind? What are the feelings that we allow to propagate, the emotions within the body and in the field? And of course, the material asceticism, what do we eat? Sects in terms of what do we withdraw from the physical world? How do we engage with food? How do we engage with sex? How do we engage with interpersonal dynamics? How do we engage with emotional contact, with emotional energy from others, with mental form and thought and framework for in ourselves and our culture, etc. And looking into that and taking breaks from that as we need to. So this mentions, of course, all religions and all sects and spiritual explorations has asceticism as a part of it at different stages. And this allows us to really perceive the importance of, or the power that those particular things that we choose to set aside for periods of time might have on us. So it also provides great value when it comes to our own development on the path, our own expressions, right? So let's say you do a silent retreat, a silent meditation retreat. You're not allowed to look at anybody. You're not allowed to talk to anybody, right? Which means you can't communicate. You can't write anything to anybody, okay? So if you can't look at anybody or communicate with the senses that we're used to communicating with, then you start to find that you perceive others through different senses. You start to feel into others. You start to feel into the location of someone's mind, the space that the mind might be occupying, where the attention might be of different individuals. Is the attention wavering, etc.? You'll start being able to read body language because you're looking for ways to communicate. Because the ones that are habitual to us have been taken from us. Now, when those habitual methods of communication are returned, we're allowed eye contact, we're allowed to speak. You realize the power within eye contact, the energy within looking at something with the eyes, the visual out, so to speak. is profoundly powerful. And you realize the use of words, the energy that it takes to form thought, to form words, to express. It's a monumental amount of energy. And it's a very, very common expression from people who've just done a silent retreat, that when they get back to talking, how exhausting it is, right? How much energy it consumes. And there's other values here too, say in silence, is that you can't engage in egoistic chatter. You can't vent your what you're going through as you're releasing. You can't vent to other people through negative expressions. You can't talk shit, right? Which is going to create hardness within you, and it's going to inhibit your own growth. So it acts as a safety mechanism for the individual's own growth, because you can't express your own static through normal means. So you have to start dealing with it closer to its source, closer to the energy makeups behind it, to the perspectives of mind and of ego and identity and of self that are the lens through which these desired expressions of static want to move. So you have to deal with that. So there's a lot of value in asceticism from different standpoints. Say in fasting, like just from food in general. Maybe you fast for a few days and you start to realize how much of our habits are based off of eating, right? Mental habits, how we hide from ourselves through food, or through any other activity. So it could be looking at a nice view out a window. There's very, of course, positive things about nature and going out in nature. And if we go and hide in a cave, this will augment how much benefit there is in being out in nature if we hide in a room. A cave's a little different than hiding in a room in terms of the density and the compression of the air and the type of silence and the intelligence within the stone. Different from being in a room, man-made room. But the point is the same in terms of asceticism and what it can offer. Now, that doesn't mean that you deprive yourself of harmony, okay? Like we mentioned earlier in this video, some explorations, when it comes to activity, require different types of sustenance to refuel and replenish those reserves, those reservoirs of substance. So abstaining from food and abstaining from water and liquids can have a lot of value in teaching us different lessons. However, unless we are, a Himalayan monk who's meditating 24 hours a day for 50 years, there's plenty of stories of those folks who eat a little bit once a week and are sustained through light. This is very, very high practice. Or I've heard of one guy who has, I think, 3 berries a day and some water or some milk or something like that. And then the rest of the nourishment comes from the densification of light and energy as it passes through and is absorbed and densified into physical substance. This is where you get substances like amrita that are nourishing agents. So asceticism has lots of value. I've mentioned a few things. He mentioned some other things here. Using food to balance and harmonize ailments of the body. Of course, using thought and emotion